So this year, because our Yomim Tovim all fall out on Shabbos, I thought we should address the issue. The rabbi has been speaking about the issue of lulav on the first day of Sukkot. That happens to be Shabbos. So we talked about last time the Talmudic issue regarding the shofar on Shabbos. Okay, there has already been apparently since Second Temple times a limitation. Tosfos notes this one. Already, not everybody was sounding the shofar in the times of the temple. It was limited to the Mikdash, whatever that was. And after the temple was destroyed, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai didn't completely forbid it, and also didn't permit it, but he kept it limited to also to a particular type of Beit Din. We saw which type of Beit Din. That's actually a complicated machloketh, three-way machloketh, perhaps even more. And lulav just became strictly forbidden. At least that's the way most people understand it. So let's talk about lulav. What happened? What was its history? And it's important to see some relevant sources because, once again, this year, just like 3 years ago, and 3 years ago, like we said, was the first time in more than a decade where it actually became an issue. What you have in front of you here is the text of the Tosefta according to the Lieberman edition. The Lieberman edition was it comes out in two sets. There's just the text of the Tosefta based on the manuscripts that he had, and the Tosefta Kifshuta, which is basically a running commentary. You have to use the two books side by side. So this is the second parak of the Tosefta of Masechet Sukkah, and the relevant line is basically right here at the bottom. So let's get right into the text of the Tosefta over here. This is basically the last one what we're going that's in the parak. So there's not too much to see here. First, you have this mice of Rabban Gamliel and the Zakanim who happened to be on a ship, and they had a lulav, and they were giving it to each other in order to perform the commandment. History says apparently Rabban Gamliel and these other representatives of the Torah Jews were going to, I guess, appeal to the Roman Senate for whatever reason. Okay, that's not mentioned in the Mishnah or in the Tosefta here. It says Rabbi Yossi says, Yom Tov Arishon Shel Chag Shechal Yoth B'Shabbat. Pretty clear. The first day of the festival that falls on the Sabbath, Kewan Sheyatzabo Yidei Havatho, since or once one has already discharged his obligation with that lulav, it's talking about the bundle, Asur L'Taltelo. From then on, he cannot handle it. It means like handling. It doesn't mean it's beyond his control, or it doesn't mean saying that he can't stand, which is also a figurative expression. It literally means he cannot handle it. And this basically seems to imply just pshat that Rabbi Yossi is discussing that there is a commandment still in force, and the sages do not prohibit taking the lulav in such circumstances. The first day of Yom Tov, and it's on Shabbos, and apparently it's not disagreed on. It's not subject to any dispute by any other Tanaim. That's the first line we have here. So we'll put this away, and we'll go to Rav Lieberman's commentary thereon. Okay, so I'll put that on the screen. Tell me if you can't see it. Oops, this is the wrong page. I have to switch pages. We'll look at the first page over here. Oh no, I got it wrong again. Sorry. Thank you for your patience. Over here. So this is what he has to say about Rabbi Yossi's statement. Rabbi Yossi Omer Yom Tov Rishon Shechag Shechal Yoth B'Shabbat Kevan Sheyatza Bo Yidei Chavatho Asur L'Taltelo. He basically brings the entire text over here. He mentions that in Ktav Yad Vienna. So that's the capital of Austria, of course. We're missing the word. Now let's go to the next page. We're done with this one. There's all that just for those few words because we want to show the complete statement over here. He doesn't have the word chal. Okay. And then I don't know what this word means. Uvidalid. I thought he was referring to Ksav Yad Dalid, but in his list of abbreviations, there's no Ksav Yad that actually has Dalid. Perhaps it meant to be Vo Nishmetu Amilim Shechal Yoth B'Shabbat. Okay, maybe in some other text also leaves this out. So one text says Yom Tov Rishon, that which is Shabbos, but not Chal, that's not a critical word over here. But if you leave out the whole fact that it's Shabbos, then the Tosefta means something else entirely. And he says it was a ta'ut. Okay. Yeshnan Gambe Ktav Yad Erfurt and Ktav Yad London. There's other Ksisviyad that have it also like that. Erfurt is a place in Germany, and nowadays it's spelled with an aleph because the ayin was there because of Yiddish, and this is in London, of course. Ulfi Mikoroth Eretz Yisrael, according to classical Eretz Yisrael sources, for example, Yerushalmi, Toseftas, certain Midrashim, Natalu Sham Lulav B'Yom Rishon Shechal Yoth B'Shabbat Bivulin. In Eretz Yisrael, they used to take the lulav on the first day of the holiday that fell on the Sabbath in the Gvulim. Gvulim means beyond Jerusalem. What exactly it means is similar to the machloket we saw last time. Where is Mikdash? But the point is, this is quite far away from the Mikdash. It could even be as in the Galil, for example. Afilu bizman hagonim arishonim, even during the early Gaonic period, which is the medieval times, which is post-Talmudic. And he says, you could also check this out, what I wrote in Yerushalmi Kifshuto, page 278, which I have not seen because I don't have it in my possession. Apparently, in the land of Israel, they did not know about what's called Gzera D'Rabba, that line in the Gemara a few places, that because the sages were concerned that one would come to carry his lulav, megillah, or shofar in the public domain, or at least remove it from the private domain to the public domain, they prohibited these commandments on the Sabbath. So that Gezerah was just basically unheard of regarding this halacha. I'll answer this guy's question so I don't forget the answer over here. Rambam Omer says, Be'eretz Yisrael, al smach, l'shem kayamim sham, koveim. Okay. אבל בשביל המצווה הזאתי של תקיעת שופר בשבת, הרמב"ם אומר שזה צריך להיות בבית דין. כן, יכול להיות שבזמן הרמב"ם היה איזשהו ציבור קטן בפקיעין במקומות כאלה, שהציבור היה קיים, אז זה שהם קיימים, הם עושים את החישובים שאנחנו גם עושים, לא על פי החישובים, ולא על סמכות החישובים, אבל הם מחשבים כמו שאנחנו מחשבים היום, וזה שהם שם, אוקיי, אז הם עושים, אבל הם לא נחשבים בית דין שקידשו בו את החודש, לפי הסטנדרטים של הרמב"ם. Okay, let's get back to Tosefta Kifshuta over here. So we'll show this off. What do you say? He also says that there's other sources. You could check Bavli. This is talking about Masech Sukkah, the 44th page, and also Tosfos there, which we'll see. And also Optovitzer, I don't know how they pronounce his name. Maybe it's maybe it got anglicized to Optowitzer or whatever it is. And he also has sources there that are relevant. So let's look at. Let's just remind you, what does it say on Sukkah 44 Aleph over there? Sukkah 44 Aleph says, for example, that they used to keep this commandment during the times of the Beis HaMikdash. Apparently, it describes how people would bring their lulav to the Mikdash or to the Beis Knesses. So the suggestion in the Gemara was that they used to take their lulav to the Mikdash when the temple was standing, and then to the Beis Knesses after the temple was destroyed. And they say, no, it's talking about when the temple was standing. Sometimes they brought it to the temple, and those who were far from the temple brought their lulav to the synagogue, which seems to imply that after the temple was destroyed, no one was taking the lulav anymore, not to the synagogue and not to the temple if it was Shabbos. So the Gemara there, Tosfos, which he's referencing, actually has quite a few interesting ideas there, a few chilukim. For example, that Tosfos says that if you ever find Mishnaic sources indicating that once upon a time the Eretz Yisrael community took the lulav on the Sabbath, it's not halacha because it became forbidden to do so since the destruction of the temple. That is, there's apparently Gzera D'Rabba, the way the Bavli understands, the way Tosfos going with the Bavli understand it, that this Gzera D'Rabba preceded Rabbah, of course, and is quite early on, perhaps even from Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, even if it's not explicit that he was the one who created it. And they have some more Shakalataya there. and none of it's actually necessary for our discussion over here. We'll see what else he says over here. He also points out in line 64 in the Tosefta that it describes how a person would put down his lulav for whatever reason. The Kohen puts down his lulav in order to recite the priestly blessing. He has to lift his hands. The one who goes up to read the Torah puts down his lulav. So, by the way, I've seen there's a Rav around here who holds on to his lulav the entire time. Once he picks it up for Shacharis, he basically never puts it down. I saw him go up to the Torah, still holding his lulav and esrog in both hands. Okay. So it seems here that, yeah, it's pretty clear what was going on here. It describes how a person on Shabbos and Yontif would carry his lulav with him wherever he goes. And sometimes he has to hand it off, but apparently he would continue having it. And he gives other Rishonim over here. There's a Darkei Moshe, there's a Rashba, there's a Magen Avraham, who have a certain issue, and also Eiler Rabbah on Or Chaim Mark 652, and they bring the Tosefta, but they don't understand the way he's trying to explain here. He also says you can find it Tosfos Yerushalayim. Why is this important? Because he points out over here, for example, the Tarkei Moshe, the Magen Avraham, we're understanding it this way, that the Rishalmi, which says that one of the lulav becomes somehow muktzah in the middle of Yontif, is referring to just a regular Yontif day. And that was very kasher. Why? It was very difficult. The halacha says that a person's allowed to, if he wants to be pious, hold his lulav all day long. He uses it for his dealings day to day, so to speak. He goes to check in on the sick and to comfort the mourners. Really, he's comforting mourners. Who's mourning on Chol HaMoed, for example? There is no Avelis on Chol HaMoed. So it doesn't mean Shiva. It means people who, let's say, are past the Shiva, but they could still use some social contact to make themselves feel better. That's perhaps Simchas HaChag. I don't know. And this is also explicit above. What turns the lulav into something that cannot be handled, what we commonly call muktzah, once he puts it down? The Yerushalmi there, he doesn't understand why they don't understand the Yerushalmi to referring to Yontif plus Shabbos, the first day of Yontif and Shabbos. Yerushalmi actually brings his brisa. Remember, the brisa there was brought to show that Rabbi Yossi says that person should even have his lulav with him while he prays, if his lulav happens to be there in the synagogue. It tells you to look up that source. It's a Perush also we don't have. Gilin Ephraim, Yerushalmi b'mkomo, like Rav Lieberman is trying to say here, that it is pretty clear from the Yerushalmi and the Tosefta that when Shabbos fell out, when the first day of Sukkot was on Shabbos, they took the lulav. And he also says, Ulfichach, Nirash, or Yerushalmi, who kitzur bin Tosefta shalanu. Yerushalmi, whatever text you have, is a kitzur of this Tosefta, which is talking about Shabbos. So talking about the first day of Yontif, and it's talking about Shabbos. And if someone actually puts it down, instead of handing it off to his friend, big difference. Imagine Lamad Davar Domeh, like taking the cholent off the blech, the Kira Grufin Ktuma. So he could take off the cholent and hand it to his friend, say, here, hold this, because we might want to take some cholent out, but then put it back on the fire or on the blech. But if he puts it down on the floor, he cannot do that. Chazar becomes aser. So in this case also, there's a distinction. If he puts his lulav down, lav dafka al haaretz, but puts it down on the chair on the table, and he's done with it, so now he shouldn't handle it anymore. That's a special rule for Shabbos. That's the first day of Yontif. But if he hands it to his friend, perhaps he could pick it back up. If he's already discharged his obligation, so now he's limited, he can't pick it back up again. And it's forbidden to get any other, benefit from it, not pleasure, but a benefit, the additional mitzvah, for example, going and visiting others while holding it. So let's conclude. It seems clear, at least from what we have in front of us, that this is indications that even at the time when, let's say, the Jews of Babylonia had already considered it forbidden to handle the lulav, certainly to discharge one's obligation to the biblical obligation to take that lulav, lift it up on the first day of Sukkot. In the land of Israel, they did not hold of such a thing, and they continued handling and taking the lulav in a ritual manner, even when the first day of Sukkot was on the Shabbat. And this continued apparently well into medieval times. What stopped it? Perhaps upheavals, etc., like we saw with regards to other commandments. Why is it that the opinion that Rosh Hashanah should be observed for 2 days, even in the land of Israel, became the dominant opinion in the land of Israel? Because those who were following the original opinion that Rosh Hashanah should be only kept 1 day, their communities dwindled, and the Jewish community was restarted, was strengthened by newcomers who held of different opinions from their rebbeim. Okay, I don't know. There's a lot that we don't know about the history about these things changing, but you can understand why in our day and age there would be those who romantically look back to the way things used to be done in the land of Israel, closer to the times of our sages, and want to reinstate this. And the benefit, for example, in this case would be that we get to perform a biblical commandment as described in the Torah and as we know was performed by our ancestors even after the destruction of the temple. Wish everybody a happy holiday, and may we merit to see an end to machloketh among Israel, that we all follow a Sanhedrin that can guide us in establishing the new moon and telling us the proper way to sound the shofar, and deciding for everyone where to take the lulav when the first day of Yom Tov is on the Sabbath. Be well.
We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. If you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.